Okay, welcome to the deep summer episode of Tools of the Humans. Today we have the pleasure to entertain a discussion with Miguel Villarreal. It's fair to say that Miguel is in love with the land, with farming, with nature, in a way so forth with earth and humanity. This is Tools of the Humans. I'm TC.
And I am Matteo Basei Pantolino.
And we will be your hosts. Miguel, welcome to the show. In your bio, which is linked in the notes, we read that Miguel is a seasoned school food service leader with over 30 years of experience who has championed healthy local food initiatives in California, in Texas. And your journey began as a farm laborer, fueling your passion for nutrition and fitness, which led you to pursue a Bachelor of Science degree in food and nutrition. Mm-hmm. And also this degree allow you to work as a school food service administrator, and you acquired a Master of Science degree in business administration. Miguel is also an endurance cyclist and with a lot of accomplishments in sport and body transformation. We'll talk about that later. Welcome to the show, first of all. Really, it's an honor. Tell us in 100 words, who is Miguel Villarreal?
Thank you, Tom and Matteo. It truly is an honor to be here. Yeah, and thank you for posing that question because, you know, it's always challenging to summarize, but your life's work in a few statements. But if I could summarize it, I would say that I've someone, a human, if you will, that's been inspired and motivated to succeed, and that definition has changed over the years. What success is, but by many that came before me, by my family, by friends, acquaintances, and as I proceed in life and I continue to learn and be motivated, then I've in turn enjoyed taking everything that I've learned, if you will, and have taught others some of the skills that I've used in my own life for their own personal gain or for the gain of the community in which they live.
Learner and sharer, which is really you must be brave to do that.
Absolutely, the case of Miguel.
To learn and to share it, it's not an easy thing. Now, obviously, you are the co-director at National Farm to School Network, and there was a big event the last weekend as well.
Yes, so we have the National Farm to School Network is, and I think you have our organization on your website in terms of the link to the National Farm to School Network. But we are an organization that represents organizations, if you will. We're a network of organizations around the country that are working on improving the culture of health and nutrition in communities by providing education, by joining people together, giving them resources, and then, of course, advocacy at the state and at the national level. So every year we bring together our partners or people that are interested and want to learn more about what they are doing. And so this year we held our meeting in Minneapolis and brought in a diverse group of people from all over the United States. In fact, 47 states, Guam and the District of Columbia were represented. And from the feedback that we received from all of them, it was just an incredible event. We got to visit one of the local farms. We learned about the Hmong farmers that came in from Southeast Asia and what we learned about their journey and what they're doing in Minnesota, of all places, farming in Minnesota. I mean, if you know, that's one of the coldest tundra in the United States, but they've managed it. So it was, it's always we taught, but we also learned and we shared and and there was honesty to say it was fun, but also lots of love in the room.
The show is listened by people, obviously, around the world, let's say. So you're giving us a perspective on the American soil about these things, because in Europe, we were chatting a little bit before. We have a different perspective about food and farming and everything. So effectively, it's a new thing for many of us who has studied and lived in the States, knows what you're talking about. But given this perspective, obviously, the United States is a big country, so it affects. Then in the long term, it's going to affect everything. You know, if you cannot say, okay, yeah, it's on the other part of, on the other side of the ocean. No, this is going to affect us sooner or later, or is already affecting and we don't even realize. National Farm to School Network, the link is in the notes, very interesting readings. And obviously your dedication to improving student well-being has led to significant advancements in school food programs nationwide. This is a thing that you should be really very proud, because new generations, it's our focus for everything we are talking about here. Okay, it's not for us, it's for them. From food waste, there is a great article that I put, Glean Baby Glean. That's a great article about, stop wasting food, to sugar, to poor quality food, to processed food, to create effectively a new culture of healthy food. What was the biggest challenge that you have to face through these years? I mean, many areas.
So lots, when I think about that question, I think about there were lots of challenges. And one of the things that for example, Tom, that I shared with the group, because some of us that have been a little bit ahead of the curve because we've just been around a little longer. And in my case, I've been around as a professional in this industry for over 40 years now. And so as I shared with the group, to see all those people come together from around the nation and really around the world in terms of doing this work of advancing the culture of nutrition and wellness. When I started back in the early 80s, there weren't groups of people getting together. In fact, there were far and few in between. So that was the biggest challenge, is trying to get people in the room to listen and to move forward, to move this movement forward, if you will. And so it took me close to 20 years to, just learn and adapt. But it was when I moved out to California that I took all that knowledge and applied it to the community in which I lived. And that was bringing the entire community together. And who was, simply Tom, Matteo, what I used to say is, who was missing from my farm to school table? Who was not there? Who's not around the table? And it was, if you look around the table, it could be like if it's a family, your family's not around the table. Who in your family needs to be part of this discussion? Well, for me, the family was the school and the community. So it was teachers, students, parents, administrators, the city officials, the universities, the healthcare facilities. I used to say even the guy who owned the tire shop down the street was one of my people that I work closely with, because we're all connected. And so I didn't realize at the time that those were, I needed to learn about those challenges and how to overcome those challenges. And I approached it the same way I approach anything in life, is you learn, you study, and you figure out how to overcome it, and then you apply it.
In aviation, we say proper preparation prevents poor performances. So, preparing first and study. This is what you were calling in one of the articles, the 3 C's: cafeteria, classroom, and community. That's a great,
So Tom, what I wanted to do was always, to this day, we have to have a common language. And so people needed to understand, and we'll talk a little bit more about this in a bit, but the common language at the time for me was, okay, every day we come to work, yes, what we do in the cafeteria is what we should be doing in the classroom, and it's what we should be doing in the community. So it was the 3 C's. It was very simple. It was a simple marketing tool, and it resonated with the community. People understood, oh yes, the 3 C's, I know what you're talking about. And we continued advancing the culture of nutrition and wellness. And again, it was an incredible time in my career in that community, and made so many friends. And we definitely changed the culture in that particular community and around the state and really around the nation as we started expanding outward.
Any frictions, any resistance from who, if we can say it?
Oh yeah, no, I definitely could say whether resistance. It wasn't initially. So early on in my career, the resistance, I think, came from just many different areas, whether it be school administrators, and primarily because of cost related issues. It's like, we can't buy from our local farms; it's too costly. or we can't bring this healthier food in because the kids won't eat it and we're going to waste it. And so just, excuse after excuse after excuse why we couldn't do what we did. And so, in my approach, when I came out here, I just started addressing each one of those points. And I think one of the things we're going to talk about here in a little bit is about red meat. And remember, the area where I live in is I should say remember, but I want you to know that I live in an area that's there's a lot of cattle ranchers in this area. So there was any resistance I was going to be met with was by our ranchers. But again, my way of working is collaborating and meeting. I met these ranchers early on. I met many farmers and ranchers early on because I wanted them to know, this part of the 3 C's. They're the community. They're the people that are growing the food. And so I had my limitations. I only had a certain dollar amount, a budget. And so we had to work around that, and we put in many innovative programs that we managed to work within our budget and still improve health and wellness for children and in the community.
Well, I will bring some salt and pepper to our discussion.
Okay, let's do it.
Well, first of all, I look at Miguel and it seems like to be a very normal person at the first, outlook. But well, I have a story. How we meet, me and Miguel. Well, we were in Paris in an international summer campus at Eating City Summer Campus, the European platform of sustainable supply chain of food connected with slow food movements and so on. And nevertheless, the vice president of the United States of America with the delegation, the deputy of all the school meal, call Miguel and say, well, Miguel, you have to be there and to be our proud from the US. So I arrived that little Miguel singing and dancing around the fire. Very, very beautiful moment. And then I discover a very passion-driven person, because for the first things, he was the last one who was finished dancing. And I say, sorry, Miguel, you are not the youngest. How can you dance as much as you're able to? And he say, well, Matteo, I do a lot of sports. I do bike. I do gym. So this is nothing. And we starting talking like, okay, which kind of sports you do, and some. You arrived to do 400 kilometers biking in 1 day, right?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And you win the body transformation. I don't remember the name of this challenge you win.
Yeah, it was actually, I'd be honest with you, my wife encouraged me to do this challenge. It was called Body for Life. And of course, nobody knows us better. And I think, Tom, you can certainly empathize with this. Is nobody knows us better than our own spouses, our wives. And so she says, I found this challenge, and I think you should enter. And I think you can win. And so it was a body transformation. I was in my early 40s and in good shape, but not in incredible shape like my 20s in terms of muscular structure and so forth. But she said, yes, these individuals are transforming their lives and their bodies, and within 12 weeks. And I said, I don't think that's possible. I've been exercising my whole life, and it took years of dedication and hard work to look, like the way they do. But it was a challenge. And so I took it, and I, as you say, I did win a portion of it. I didn't win the whole thing, but I won a portion of it. But what came out of that is for me, it was something I had not thought about and really been implementing in my own life. And that is, and Tom, you'll appreciate this. It was quality workouts and quality consumption of foods versus quantity. So, I no longer did I realized that, I mean, I was only doing 20 minutes of cardio. That Tom, that's not much at all. 20 minutes of cardio and less than half an hour of weights, but very specific type of weight training that I used to do when I was a teenager, but I hadn't done it in such a long time, and I brought it back in. Anyway, it helped transform myself, but also transform not only my body, Mateo, but also my mind. So again, always learning, adapting, and this was somebody that their challenge that it was nationwide. Somebody that was doing what we all are doing, is trying to help others improve in their lives. So anyway, it was a good time in my life, and continue to use some of the same skills that I learned at that time, even to this day.
I remember your storyline, the megaphone. What is the
megaphone,
megaphone?
yeah.
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 What happened when you change your mindset?
Yeah. So I said, working in school, when you work in a community, in a small community, we were implementing lots of changes, transformational changes, making really having people change their mindset. We worked a lot on just mindset, whether it was administrators, as I said, all the people that were engaged in terms of the work that we were doing. And so I knew that it was beneficial to that community. And I said when I was working in that community that at someday I'm going to retire, and I'm going to get the largest megaphone. So I believe in manifesting your what's coming up in the future. I said when I retire, I'm going to find the largest megaphone, and I'm going to help to spread the message about the work that we were doing. And to that point, I did finally retire, and we went to Italy. This is before I met Matteo, my wife and I, and we lived there for 6 months. And my wife and I, and we came back, and I was really motivated because it was a time of just reflecting and resting and enjoying the culture of Italy and the people of Italy and everything that Italy has to offer. But when I came back to America, I thought about, as you say, Matteo, this megaphone. And I was just reading books and so forth, taking my time, not really looking for any jobs or anything at the time. But I got a call from someone at the National Farm to School Network and said, "Hey, Miguel, how would you like to join us as a co-executive director? We could use your help." And of course, I wasn't doing anything at the time. This was 2 years ago. So for me, the National Farm to School Network has been that megaphone. I've been able to go to Washington, D.C. on several occasions. One of the very first meetings I was in was with a group of 800 individual, passionate, caring individuals from around the country that are trying to transform the culture of wellness. And we met with not only the President of the United States, but many other representatives as well. And there was lots of people that I knew in the room because of my years of working in this industry, but it was inspiring and motivating. And to your point, Matteo, I got that large megaphone. We've been elevating the voice of the National Farm to School Network. It's how I ended up in Paris meeting you as well. Just the connections that have been made. So it's been a wonderful journey. So that megaphone has taken me to lots of places, and I hope it will continue to take me to.
I remember you have a specific style. So I will ask you about the numbers of school you have to manage. So how many people, child, in how many schools you feed every day with the specific life management style. So
Yeah.
you talk about servant leadership. So please give me some numbers to understand the impact of your work.
Yes.
And what is the servant leadership and why?
I've worked in many different size school districts. So one of the largest school districts that I worked in, there were 60 schools and over 60,000 students. So 60,000 students that we would provide meals, making sure that we were providing the healthy meals, overseeing a staff of over 300 employees. That includes women and men, drivers, distribution. So every distribution of food, preparation of food, the facilities in which they worked in. So, if you can imagine a restaurant and everything that a restaurant has to do, well, and in terms of feeding customers and so forth, and making sure the customers are happy and returning and so forth. We do the same thing in schools, and then so that was the work that I was doing, and of course engaging with teachers and so forth, but and parents. But when I came out to California, that I worked in a smaller school district. There was only 13 schools and only 30 employees. And so I had come from this massive school district, managing all these employees and managing all, lots of students and so forth, to a smaller school district. So I thought, how can I take the knowledge and skills that I've learned and expand that to the community? So I say that in the first 20 years of my life, I probably met maybe 10 school teachers and maybe 10 parents that I spoke to. I knew all the administrators and I didn't know all the students, but one of the things that I made part of my work style is to meet and engage with all the teachers, with all the administrators. And of course, we don't have time to get into all the strategies as to how we did that, but engaging everybody, engaging parents, community, farmers. Tom brought up the gleaning. We used to bring families out to the farms. I wanted families to see where the food was being grown. And I wanted them to meet the farmer. And then of course there's a second harvesting. So these families were harvesting the crops that already had been harvested for the first time. So the second harvest, and that all that food came back into the schools. So that was one way of addressing food costs as well. So we were receiving about 500 pounds of food for an average of about 2,000 students. So 60,000 students in the other district, 2,000 students in this district. But numbers, Mateo, honestly are inconsequential, because it really is about whether you're feeding the right food to one student, or you're feeding the right food to 2,000 students or 60,000 students. And for me, it was a matter of not only bringing in locally sourced food, which prior to my arrival out here in California, we lived in a community that's surrounded by over 60 organic farms. And none of that food was being served to these children. And we changed that landscape. We started bringing in food from local farms. And at the same time, removing highly processed foods that were high in sugar, foods that contained lots of chemicals that weren't good for children. And we started then also tracking, for example, the pounds of sugar that we removed. So again, remember, only 2,000 students, but on average, we noted. In fact, I did the math first, and I just thought, I thought my math can't be correct. So I was working with some dietitians, and I said, here, I'm going to give you my stats. I'm going to give you all my data, and I want you to see if you come up with the same numbers. And they came up with the same numbers. We were removing an average of 500 pounds of sugar a day for every day for 14 years, or an average of 36 tons of sugar a year that was removed from those children's diet, in addition to all the highly processed foods. We have a ton of qualitative data. Teachers telling us we definitely can see the difference of our students in our room. They're more engaging. They're doing better in their classroom. Our physical education instructors constantly telling me, Miguel, our students they're the healthiest they've ever been. We've got some very healthy students. Our administrators saying we have far less discipline issues. Of course, all these things are going to happen because we've known about these results of those of us that have implemented those, and even in our own personal lives have seen the results. I know Tom has mentioned cholesterol reduction. We've seen people that have reduced their blood sugar. They've just and on and on and on. it was, for me, it was that the opportunity to make sure that everybody was being brought, and when I say everybody,
Yeah,
students and community understood what we were
let
doing.
me let me understand right. So you not only has been able to transform yourself, transform your body, and arrive to ride for 100 kilometers by biking in one day because a lot of energy you have because you eat well, you train well, and so on. But you also coach others. Not only coach others, you even arrive to impact and to nudge gently thousands of young people, young students in the country. And that brings you to have a Netflix web series. So you are what you eat, I remember. And then even bring you to Stanford to teach and talking about management style, servant leadership.
Well, Matteo, that just goes back to, that my own personal roots and what I saw growing up as a child, with my family as farm workers, and seeing my dad, my mom, my grandparents, and everybody around, working as hard as they did, and never shying away from doing anything that somebody else was doing. So it was, it was like everybody's equal. No, nobody, even though my grandpa and my dad both had and responsibilities where they oversaw other farm workers, they were in leadership positions, but they worked just as hard as the next person. And so for me, that was, I learned that at a very young age. And so there's been nothing that I've been able to do over the years. I mean, there's nothing, I should say, that I wouldn't do that my staff would do as well. So the servant leadership is the ability to empathize and to know that your employees are working hard, and they've certainly have contributed to the effort. But if they're unable to do some of the tasks because of whatever consequence comes up, then we as leaders have to step in and do that work ourselves. And so that's what I've been doing my entire life, is just stepping in and doing that work and not relying on somebody else to do this work.
That's really fascinating because, makes me think, like Matteo, when he met you, it was like, we need to do an episode of me and Miguel. It was all these things that probably you told him already. They caught his attention, and also, listening to you. I don't know if you know, but I'm vegan since last 7 years. A little bit to revert a little bit of family genetics, cholesterol, like you were mentioning. So I'm really keen on when we're discussing about, cleaning, because it's one of the principles of veganism, to use everything you have, but also processed food. You can eat vegan, and you can eat also processed vegan food. Nowadays, you can find that. And also the debate that is starting also in Europe now, the red meat consequences, or too much red meat, or too much processed red meat, all these things. I think there was a nice article where you intervened. You were talking about USDA and organic meat, like you mentioned before. That's really an interesting part. But back to the sugar and back to the fitness. What did you do for the sugar? What was that challenge that, just after retired, you had
Yeah.
to
So
climb the
again,
mountain?
for me, it was always trying to be trying to market and do something that just is going to capture people's attention. So Tom, what I did was I challenged my community. So not only was I reducing the amount of sugar in the schools, but I challenged the community, and I challenged them for a month leading up to an event that we were going to have. And I said, during this month, let's as a community reduce the amount of sugar that we're using in our homes, and make sure that we're being attentive to what we're buying and serving our children, because we're doing it in the schools as well. And so, but all this was leading to a bigger event, and it was a cycling event, community cycling event. It was a fun event. It wasn't a race or anything. I said, and my challenge is going to be this. I am going to tow in the back of my bike 100 pounds of sugar, which is the average amount of sugar that children eat per year. And so I said, I'm going to take 100 pounds of sugar and we're going to ride, I'm going to ride 100 kilometers. So by the way, Tom, over the years, that story, you know how stories grow bigger and bigger. Over the years that story was retold by many others, that story turned into 1,000 kilometers. Miguel biked 1,000 kilometers. It was only 100 kilometers. And Miguel pulled 500 pounds of sugar. Well, no, Miguel did not pull 500 pounds of sugar. Miguel only pulled 100 pounds of sugar. But we have lots of hills, Tom, in this area. In Petaluma, we have lots of hills of 10 kilometers, 5 kilometers, steep, 18%, 20% grade. And so I trained my body to be able to pull 100 pounds of sugar. Now I have to tell you the story. I trained and weights and so forth, and then I put in my bike 50 pounds of sugar, and I did a 50-kilometer ride in the area, and I thought, oh, I'm ready. 50 kilometers. I did it fine, no problem. What I didn't realize is when you add another 50 pounds for the very first time, because I never practiced towing 100 pounds of sugar. The very first pedal stroke that I took was incredibly difficult. The very first one, I pushed down on it and I went, oh my gosh, I've got 100 kilometers to ride. This is going to be challenging. And then the very first hill I came to was one of these 5-kilometer hills with 15% grade. And I was by myself because I was riding to the event with this sugar. And I got up this very steep hill. And when I made it to the top, mentally, that's when I knew I'm going to be okay. I'm going to be okay. But Tom, I could not stop. If I stopped on that hill, that would have been the end of me. No, and nobody knew. I was by myself. Nobody around. It was just me, my mind, my bike, the sugar. And I don't think I've ever told that story.
No, we saw the article of you towing the sugar, but effectively these are insights that no one knows. So it's really
that story is still told to this day. That was, I don't know what year that was. To this day, when I'm Miguel, tell the story of the sugar. So thank you for bringing it up.
At the beginning, we were exchanging some messages. You talked about show, stop, look, listen. Jack LaLanne show. Was that your inspiration? Yeah. That's a funny story. I was looking at the video that Matteo sent us. It's like really vintage type of fitness. But the reality is like, it's saying, things that they have sense. So they're making sense. So
stop, look, listen. It's time for the Jack LaLanne Show from Hollywood. Starring the world-famous nutritionist, author, lecturer, and physical culture expert on your figure and beauty. And now, here is the man who will show you how to feel better, look better, Jack LaLanne.
You have other challenges, like physical challenges that you have planning with bikes, or Matteo was telling me about bamboo bike.
The bamboo bike, Matteo put me in contact with them. So one of the challenges, one of the things I've been thinking about is doing a ride. And again, my challenges are all tied always to, if you want to go back to the 3 C's, it's not just about getting on a bike and riding somewhere. It's always about, if I'm going to get on a bike, what's the message that I'm trying to reach to people? And also, who can I engage along the way? So along those lines, my thought is in the next year, I'd like to do a bike ride from Texas to Idaho. And there's a purpose, there's a reason for wanting to do that ride. That's the ride that my family, for a couple of decades, commuted to go work when they were farm workers, including myself. They made that trek every year. And as as do farm workers to this day, still make that trek from Texas to Idaho or from Texas to Minnesota or so on, so forth. So I wanted to tell the story of what that was like, and also use that opportunity to engage communities along the way. So, for example, we'd stop in San Antonio or Austin or Dallas or whatever along the way and have highlight and elevate the voice of the food heroes in those communities and talk about what they were doing. At the same time, get back on the bamboo bike, if it is the bamboo bike, and go across the country, which would be, I think, about 5,000 kilometers over the Rocky Mountains and over to Idaho. So, you know, Tom, I'm getting up in age, and so I thought I got to do this now while I still have this energy that Mateo described earlier, because, you know, I think we're I don't know. I was telling you earlier, I don't know when the valve is going to be shut down. You know, when does it start? Right now, there's still lots of energy, and primarily because of you were saying earlier, I did change my diet to a vegan diet about 15 years ago, and then I've kept it primarily vegan, but it's when I went to Italy and we lived there for 6 months. I introduced cheese, local cheese into the diet because it's cheese on lots of dishes.
It's impossible.
So, and anyway, 'cause I
Yeah,
couldn't-
on my holidays in Italy, it's always like, my mom, can you eat this? No, I can eat everything. I just don't want, okay? So-
Exactly.
no, you cannot eat that one. It's like, no, it's not gonna explode, you know?
Yeah, no, yeah, I think we all have the same philosophy. Yep.
No, that's great. So when you
Miguel-
decide to do this challenge, please let us know. We want to kind of follow the journey, so
Okay.
that we can comment it and we can spread the word and the message of this journey. Effectively, is really honorable what you're gonna do. I mean, going through the
Yeah,
communities and having people highlighted for what they're doing.
Yeah.
That's something, and that's just something also that me and Matteo decided to put together in the Monte Carlo Coaching Club. It's not like an academy; it's much more a hub where we try to converge his knowledge of coaching, my knowledge of transferable skills from the military that I'm using for training people in sport or training people in the air, but also something that can be used in different line of businesses. So we would like to have you sometimes. It doesn't have a physical place. I mean, I know you've been to Monte Carlo, but it's still virtual. It's still in the metaverse. But if we have events, or if we are organizing stuff, I mean, the message that you're
Yeah.
passing with your servant leadership is a strong one. It's
Thank you. Yeah.
because I think like businesses are led by money. So most of the times the leadership is committed for that one, and then you have an achievement but you don't have success in the long term. So
Yeah.
that's what we've been discussing a lot with Matteo, with Jim Cook, always, obviously, so that's really great.
Very close to ask you, Tom.
Mm.
I mean, you not only fighter pilot as a Top Gun, but you always train yourself for Ironman challenge, and that's for sure is not something you prepare for 1 week and then you go for the challenge, but it's a lifestyle. And talking with Miguel, well, Miguel has a level of energy. It's incredible. It's incredible. When you stay be close to Miguel, you can feel the energy. You touch him. It's a rock. It's totally a rock. And you say, how it's possible that you deliver all this energy? And also you, Tom. I mean, you have done an Ironman in 7 hours. I don't remember exactly the numbers.
Yeah, I did 10 hours. Yeah.
10 hours. 10 hours, you have one marathon, 180 kilometers biking, and how many
And
kilometers?
3.8 kilometers swim. Yeah. Open water
So,
swim.
10 hours just delivering
Yes, yes.
infusing energy, and you feel good. You are very good, and that's a kind of lifestyle you arrive to achieve an equilibrium, let's say.
Mhm.
Yeah, I think it takes time. Obviously, you were not born like this. I mean, my mother used to say, I'm a hyperactive kid and never sleep. I started sleeping the night when I turned 2 years old, no? And my father finally had a full night of sleep, and he said the kid is dead. He went to see, and I was sleeping. It's like from then on, I started sleeping, but at the beginning, I was never sleeping. So I think some people they do better than others in this. But for the people that know me, I wake up in the morning, I'm already turned on. My family, they're like, okay, yes, there you go. But we want to sleep more. Yeah, but okay, there is the sun. Let's do it. Like, so if you have this attitude in life to do, then it helps a lot. If you want to do it and then you wake up, okay, I want to do it, then sooner or later you switch on and then it becomes your lifestyle. I felt the nutrition, the lifestyle that I turned with the vegan, my performance, even if I was aging, were better than before. I don't know if it was like sport maturity or fitness maturity, but effectively my best performance were as soon as I became vegan. So yeah, I keep going. I keep going a little bit less. We were discussing before with Miguel. Try not to upset too many people around your family. Just because you're waking up every day at 4 o'clock to train. You want to try to be pleasant. Sometimes people want to go out in the evening, and but I have to train tomorrow. Okay, this time maybe we can go out, and then we see. So lifestyle is what gives you consistency, I believe. So if you are consistent with nutrition, consistent with fitness, then you're also consistent with life. And back to what Miguel was saying about approaching kids, you are telling your family, your kids, that this lifestyle, it's also for them. It's a concept of legacy. So whatever you do, servant leadership is also this one in the family. That just try to give them. I want to see my grandchildren or grandchildren. If you don't do it, then who knows?
Yeah.
You're taking a chance about it.
One
Anyway,
important things I would like to make it more evident in this dialogue is that Miguel is not only, let's say, an achiever, is not only a very aware testimony of success, but he also train others, teach others, coach others in the field of food. Just as Tom, that is not only has been a fighter pilot, he also trained other Top Gun, right? Like also Jim Cook, he coach other CFO in the companies, and for sure, Bill Campbell was the coach of the coach, so he was coaching Steve Jobs and people like that. So serving others to flourish, to do something. Miguel is doing a kind of coach for public service, let's say. Tom is doing in the private sector more, maybe. So talking about Top Gun coaching is not something easy, right? But what
I mean, like from my side, yeah, on my side there is framework. So the structure as a specific framework for training. I guess Miguel, do you follow a framework when you're coaching, or it's much more daily life?
No, well, yeah, no, there is a framework. And in fact, I've engaged, and for me, and like you, Tom, or any of us that do this work, it's, it's already prescribed, it's built in, it's in our genetics. And people want to know what that framework is. What is that framework? Because they want to replicate it. But it honestly is a little different for everybody. So for example, if I'm talking to administrators, school board members, and so forth, My approach to them will be different than my approach to children, my approach to parents, my approach to community leaders and so forth. But at the same time, they follow the same principles. And that is that we have to have what we call now, then this, I told Mateo and I had this discussion. Mateo, I don't know if you remember us talking about this, but we talked about values aligned, being values aligned. So as a common language. So when I was coming up many years ago, we didn't have a term that we used. We say we were doing it because it was the right thing to do. It's the right thing to make sure that children's health is improving. It's the right thing to do, to buy food from local farms because you're supporting the farmers. You're supporting local economy. You're taking care of the animals in the area. You're making sure that people are treated equally. You're taking racial justice into account. So, but there wasn't a title around all that. It was just like we were mentioning all these things. And so today, or I should say, what we have lots of groups and organizations talking about is values aligned. The decisions we make are values aligned. So whether it be for children or for farmers or for the people that prepare the food and the facilities they work in, the wages that they earn, and how they're treated and so forth. And again, as I said earlier, looking at the economy, local economy. So it's values based. So we all have different values that speak to us. In my case, I remember I don't think I ever thought about animal welfare. I mean, I didn't. Early on in my career, I did not think about how animals were being treated, or what they were being fed, or what they were, that just wasn't a value of mine. And so I don't go around also criticizing people that aren't, for example, Tom, vegan. I have lots of ranchers that are friends of mine, and they've learned. In fact, I had a rancher to my testimonial. I had a rancher. I was in a meeting, and a rancher got up and he said, I see Miguel out in the audience, and he said, and what I learned from Miguel is not that you shouldn't eat meat, but that the meat that you eat, grown and processed, in a way that benefits families and our own health. So using the best grasses, for example, not providing any antibiotics and hormones. And then he said, and what I learned from Miguel is that meat should not be the center of the plate. It should be your vegetables and your fruits, and then meat more of a side item. And so this was a rancher that was saying this. And so I thought to myself, when you've arrived, or your message has arrived when somebody else that's been a meat eater, a heavy meat eater, all their life, and has just learned a fundamental thing that they hadn't even thought about, because no one's mentioned it to them. And so again, those are values, and we continue to improve on our values, and everybody's at a different place on that value ladder, if you will.
Brilliant. Talking about values in in nutrition. Yeah, as you said, it's so different, and you were talking about inclusivity. This is something that in Europe we don't get it too much, especially with different groups of people, that they can be ostracized from the nutrition system.
Yeah.
How big is it?
One of the things that I used to say, so here in America, unfortunately, we have a tiered system for, in terms of how we support those that need help and those that do not need help. So there's benefits for families, for example, to buy food. So benefits in the form of money that's given to families. There's benefits in the form of commodities, we call them commodities, and subsidies in schools. So we can provide meals to those that are less fortunate, that aren't at a higher income level. But when you have that kind of system, you separate people, and you separate children, and you separate families. And I used to say, when I was a food service director, and I still say to some degree, is that I'm not going to walk into somebody's house that has a lower income than mine and criticize them for the food that they've purchased. Because that was my own family. My mom and dad, they were buying food. They weren't buying the best foods that they could, but they had a limited amount of dollars and they were buying calories. And those calories didn't always translate to the best foods, because today we know that the cheaper food is, is usually highly processed and not good for our families. And so rather than walking into somebody's home and saying, criticizing, or even into an establishment, is that we have to question why we're doing what we're doing. And we have to then, and I've told people this all the time, we have to question, and then you have to go to the next step. And the next step is, how can I help? How can I be of assistance for you, for your family? What is keeping you from these, providing these type of foods, or whatever it is that they're doing, and then working on solving those issues. And so that's the only way we're going to continue to improve our food system, is that we all are empathetic to our situation and not critical to our situation for making decisions that, people are not aware of. And some of it might be financial, and some of it might be facilities. We have many people that are homeless. They don't have a kitchen. They don't have a place to prepare food. They don't have a refrigerator. They're living maybe in a motel or hotel. And so all those things have to be addressed, and you have to be empathetic to it. So again, at the end of the day, I look at someone like myself and where my family came from. I dreamed big early on in my life. I dreamed big and I wanted more, not because we had it. We didn't have a whole lot, but my mom and my dad and others inspired me to dream big. And today I still dream big. I still am trying, and hopefully this shows, be as kind to people and empathetic as you can possibly be. And just as important is, if you have the means, then make a difference in your life, make a difference to those around you, to those that you love, and those that you see need support and help. And so that's the inclusivity that we're talking about, that I talk about, is that we don't know what the future brings. In my case, I deal with a lot of children in schools, and we don't know what child is going to rise to that next level, because we've inspired them, because we've motivated them, because we've given them the tools to be successful.
Thank you for the last words you have, because we share a lot of discussion, a lot of dialogues about talking about slow finance. So the effects of a good impact of slow food movements, even arriving to transform the local community, the financial, let's say, resilience of a community. And what's bring you to Stanford to teach?
Yeah. Well, the same thing that brought me here, someone like you, Mateo, you told Tom, hey, we got to have Miguel on this show. Well, somebody met me in my community, and they talked to Stanford and said, you've got to have Miguel at Stanford. They were doing a forum with all these food people. And I remember the professor who's now, you cited earlier, that has the Netflix show. He told me the story later on. He said, Miguel, they kept telling me, you got to meet Miguel. You have to meet Miguel. You have to have Miguel as part of this presentation. He said, finally, he said, okay, I'll have Miguel, bring him in. We'll have him speak. And so, ever since then, he and I have become good friends, and he has me speak at Stanford every other year when he teaches a class on sustainability and food culture.
And that was a serendipity for you, right?
For sure. Yes. Very serendipity.
And why? And what's bringing you to this serendipity? The gratitude that the local people, your peers, want to give you back to you, because you were giving as a servant leadership a lot of things, right?
Absolutely.
So
No, yes. Listen, I've had, you're absolutely right. I have received much more than I feel that I have given, many times over. And I think this is why, many of us continue to do this work, because I just shared when I was in Minneapolis, one of the stories is that when I was in Texas, as hard as I was working on trying to change the system, and it wasn't just about Texas, it's just the approach I was taking. It was like I wasn't doing the right training, if you will. And so I just became unmotivated for a short period of time and needed a different outlook. And it was when I moved out to California that outlook changed, because I changed my mindset. Not that it wasn't in the wrong direction, but I should say a change. I improved on my mindset, being more inclusive of many other things. So no, I've had a wonderful career. I could share some wonderful moments with both of you that my community has bestowed on me, that I would be remiss if I didn't tell you that it brought me to tears, because I just didn't realize that the community felt that way. But it was such humbling experiences for me. And so
Thank you so much, Miguel.
yeah.
Yeah. Miguel, thank you very much. Your words are really rich and full. We are at the end of the show, the end of the episode. It was real pleasure to talk to you, let's say in person, remotely in person. But but it was a pleasure to hear from your words, all the stories and articles that you read in the newspaper, the sugar story and everything. That's really, I think for what you said, we need more human beings like you. Servant leadership, sharing, learning and sharing. It's what create our, human legacy, let's say.
Yeah. And Tom, honestly, at the end of the day, for me, it's how do we take everything that we're doing and have others also learn these things so they can continue to carry this torch forward.
Miguel, we are waiting for your next challenge, okay, to witness it, to be testimonials of that. So we're looking forward to hear from you.
Okay.
And thank you very much.
Thank you. Thanks to both of you. I really, I'm honored to be here with both of you, especially knowing what I know about both of you and what your mission in life is as well, and who you're talking to and attracting and so forth. So I'm truly honored to be here. Thank you.
It's okay. This is Tools of the Humans. I'm TC.
My name is Matteo Basin Fantolino.
Ciao.
Goodbye. Ciao, Miguel.
Ciao. Ciao.